presentation now, but before we get into it, we'd like to introduce ourselves first. My name is Rikuya Takatsu.
My name is Ryo Fukushi.
My name is Yugawa Hinata.
And my name is Koshiro Kuroda. And we're from... We're from Kaisei High School. Right here in Tokyo Prefecture. So let's get into it. Throughout our presentation, we will cover three things mainly. First one, history of testband treaties and CTBT. Second, problems of CTBT and our own solution, which we call peace treaty.
Okay, let's start off with the history section. As you know, nuclear weapon that national government had developed in full power throughout World War II was used in Hiroshima and Nagasaki for the first time. And the count of warheads continued to increase by the nuclear arms race created by the clash of capitalism and socialism. The momentum was so great that once an all-out war broke out, both of the camps would be completely destroyed. However, after the Cuban Missile Crisis, from anxiety for increasing nuclear weapons endlessly, strategic arms limitation talks started. Because setting the ceiling of the amount of nuclear weapons each nation could have was mostly focused, and they couldn't reach to the point of reducing them. However, it became the climactic of Cold War. Now, I will talk about treaties which played important roles in non-proliferation. Because making nuclear tests was important to develop them. Because making nuclear tests was important for development and amelioration of nuclear weapons, they have been regarded as the important steps in advance of nuclear disarmament. So, in the United Nations General Assembly, many resolutions about nuclear tests have been adopted every year. From the concern of environmental pollution, PTBT came into effect in 1963, forbidding nuclear explosion tests in the atmosphere, open space, underwater. However, underground nuclear tests were not proscribed. So, as you can see from this chart, nuclear states could continue to conduct nuclear tests as much as they like underground. For this reason, forbidding all nuclear tests in underground forbidding all nuclear tests, including underground nuclear experiments, has been one of the greatest problems for disarmament in world community. CTBT is a treaty that tries to cover this problem. It prohibits any nuclear tests, including underground. It prohibits any nuclear tests involving atomic explosions in northern places, including underground. It would proceed disarmament and non-proliferation greatly because no country will be able to have nuclear tests or a new necessary date to develop them. However, there are some vital problems which we will talk in next slide, and that is the basic history of nuclear test ban treaties.
So, there are a few problems with the CTBT. Those are that it cannot be put into force and that it has no provision on subcritical experiments. First, there are countries that have signed the treaty but still haven't ratified it yet. Those are the United States, China, Egypt, Iran, and Israel. Of these countries, the United States and China play an important role putting CTBT into force. If they ratify the treaty, it is most likely that other countries such as Egypt, Iran, and Israel would follow. However, they show no sign of ratifying the treaty. Why is that? Let's look at it from each country's perspective. From the United States perspective, they see China and Russia as a threat due to their nuclear capabilities. However, on the other side, China fears that the United States will become too powerful. And we cannot forget about the countries that haven't signed the treaty. Those are India, North Korea, and Pakistan. Even if the United States and China were to ratify the CTBT, it doesn't necessarily mean that stop these countries from performing nuclear tests. Another flaw with the CTBT is that it doesn't include any provision on subcritical experiments. Subcritical experiment is a type of a nuclear test done to assure safety and reliability in maintaining existing nuclear weapons. Although it doesn't include any nuclear explosions, it still provides an actual data about nuclear weapons. In addition to that, upgrading and reinforcing parts of nuclear weapons will eventually lead to further development of nuclear arms. Since this type of nuclear test requires a great amount of data from nuclear testing, only 3 countries have the ability to perform this test. That is, the United States, Russia, and China. Although the subcritical experiments are done for safety purposes, it goes against the fundamental concept of CTBT, which is to eliminate all development of nuclear arms. These 2 points are the main problems of CTBT.
Now, as Rio has pointed out, there's 2 major flaws in the CTBT. And those are, the first one is that there is no provision on subcritical experiments. The second one is that it can't be put into force because some countries, including US and China, like the 2 of the most influential countries, have not yet ratified the treaty itself. And we discussed these problems over and over and over again. But then we weren't able to come up with a very good solution to solve these 2 problems at once. So we decided to think up of a very new alternative plan, which is the Perpetual Extermination of Atomic Explosion and Limitation of the Subcritical Experiments Treaty, or in short, the Peace Treaty. Okay, The basic provisions of the peace treaty is the same as the CTBT, like banning all nuclear experiments involving atomic explosions and having the International Monitoring System, the IMS, inspecting the violation of the rules. The difference is that it creates a limit to subcritical experiments and a new ratification procedure for all countries. Limiting subcritical experiments. As stated previously, the US and at least Russia and China are set to conduct subcritical experiments right now. What this means is that even if we have all the countries ratify the CTBT, we won't be able to stop the continuing development of nuclear arms. However, we cannot ban all the subcritical experiments at once. This is because if we ban all the subcritical experiments, the safety and certainty of nuclear weapons becomes a question. So, our peace treaty will limit the maximum number of subcritical experiments that can be conducted by a country to 1 experiment per year. And also, so that no country violates this rule, mandatory applications must be turned in before experiments. By doing so, peace treaty will certainly prevent new development of nuclear arms, unlike CTBT, which has no provisions on subcritical experiments. In order for our new peace treaty to be put into force, it will require both signature and ratification from countries who possess either nuclear power or research reactors, since they are capable of developing nuclear arms. As we stated earlier, one of the main problems with CTBT is the fact that major nuclear weapon states, such as the United States and China, have yet to ratify the treaty, deterring it from being put into force. With the peace treaty, we seek to solve this problem of negative impressions toward the ratification. What we'll do is to create a method in which countries ratify the treaty in a certain order. The first step will be for the United States and Russia to sign and ratify. Now, these two countries own most of the existing nuclear warheads. By reducing the ratifying countries down to just 2, the entire world's attention will be on them, creating a situation where they have no choice but to ratify. When these 2 countries ratify the treaty and prior to others, they will set a good example, and it will be a lot easier for other countries to follow the ratification process. The next step will be for other countries who possess nuclear weapons to ratify. These states include China, France, United Kingdom, Israel, India, Pakistan, and North Korea. As some of these countries have not ratified CTBT yet, it is unlikely that they will all ratify the new treaty. Therefore, when 5 or more countries ratify the treaty, the next step will begin no matter what. This sounds a little too forcing, but in order to create a world free of nuclear weapons, we need to take some compulsory actions. The last step will be for the rest of the states with either nuclear power or research reactors to ratify. Japan will be one of these countries. When these countries ratify the treaty, it will be put into force. This systematized procedure will be effective because it prevents the spread of negative views on ratification. If any state violates the treaty, economic sanctions will be used against that state to isolate it.
By looking back into the history of the CTBT and making the problems clear, we reached a solution that solved all the problems of the CTBT, which is the peace treaty. Thank you for listening. Any questions?
presentation. My question is, how do you make North Korea participate in the peace treaty? Please tell me in detail.
As I stated earlier, when 5 or more of the 7 countries that I stated ratify the treaty, it will be like the next step will take place. So even if North Korea doesn't ratify the treaty, if 5 or more countries ratify it, then the next step will begin. So it's kind of unrealistic, but we're just gonna like ignore North Korea.
Thank you.
Okay, this works now. So I appreciate the innovative solution as opposed to subcritical explosions. I definitely think that that's something that isn't addressed in the CTBT. But my question is more about feasibility. So currently the United States, Russia, and China all abide by the provisions of the CTBT, even if the US and China haven't ratified them. But all 3 of these countries continue to conduct subcritical explosions. So how likely is it, do you think, or how will you convince them to actually stop conducting these explosions or abide by the treaty and thus sign and ratify it?
And so, as I stated earlier, we're not banning all the subcritical experiments at once. And that's really unrealistic because the US says to conduct the subcritical experiments for safety purposes. So what we will do is a limitation. So we won't ban all the subcritical experiments. Does that answer your question?
Sort of, thank you.
Sort of, okay.
And my question is, how do you ignore North Korea? Because personally, I think that each country has a right, like, to be respected and listened to, but ignoring is like a bad thing.
Well, in order to create a world free of nuclear weapons, I don't know, I guess, I know we're not like supposed to ignore the country, but if North Korea is against our peace treaty, I guess we have to, like we said, we have to take economic, and we have to use economic sanctions to isolate North Korea until they.
Okay, I got your point. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. My question is the following. You chose to limit subcritical tests to 1 a year under your treaty. Why did you choose this number specifically? And do you know how many subcritical experiments are conducted a year by any of the nuclear weapon states?
By 2013, the United States has set to conduct 27 experiments, and the program itself started in 1990s. The project was in the 1990s, but they started the experiment itself in the 2000s. So at least they've been conducting it for like twice a year. So maybe the half the number would be right. So we chose 1 per year.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the really interesting presentation. I was wondering why you thought that pressuring the United States and Russia to act first would work now, and why you think that's a key first step to the solution. we chose the United States and Russia as the first step because they are the two warheads of the nuclear possessing countries, and by reducing the country to just down to two and making a situation where they have to ratify, the main two warheads will sign and ratify the treaty, and the other countries, we thought that the other countries would follow because the two warheads sign and both sign and ratify the treaty.
I'm just gonna add on some explanations to that. U.S. and Russia possess the most nuclear warheads, so. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot.
Last question, because we're running out of time.
Thank you for your presentation, and I just wanted to ask, how will you enforce your treaty, and what will you do if certain countries refuse to abide by the rules and continue to do nuclear testing?
How will we do it?
Or how will the treaty be enforced, and how will it control the countries and stop them if they choose to continue?
So first, we are going to reinforce the treaty. Well, if the countries don't agree to the terms of this new peace treaty, it would be just the same as CTBT, just a complete copy of the CTBT, because that's the situation that CTBT is in right now. So we made efforts to change the ratification process so that it doesn't become like CTBT as it is right now. So some countries might disagree to the terms, but we will put our best efforts for the other countries to sign and ratify.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.